Jordan Palmer, quarterback coach, draft training expert, and just launched the QB Summit digital platform via qbsummit.com. And that's aimed at training and growing youth and high school aged quarterbacks. Plus, he works with a lot of these young quarterbacks like Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson. And I figured that Jordan would be a great person to tap into with these younger quarterbacks here, in particular, Trey Lance. Jordan, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Here's a kid at North Dakota State, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They win their national title, and they're going to showcase him for one game this year against Central Arkansas. How dangerous is it to showcase him against Central Arkansas and basically have a pro day that's actually a game?
Well, I love it. I think it's smart. It's obviously great for the program for a lot of reasons that are specific to the program. But for Trey, I think it presents a great opportunity to, even though it's one game, to back up a lot of the hype that is just getting started. I mean, like the fact that we're talking about him on the Dan Patrick Show, that's kind of the start of the hype train. And so getting a chance to see him play after he's received the hype I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him.
If I hadn't seen him play, how would you describe his skill set?
So, I mean, he's 6'3", 225. So he's not way bigger and way stronger than everybody else. But he is, I think, one of the best combinations of the physical elements that you need that I've seen in a long time. So he is on the bigger side. He's on the faster side. He has a very quick release. He's very decisive with the ball. A very interesting stat line, and I have not seen this before. He threw 28 touchdowns and no picks. Yeah. He had almost 290 attempts. I don't care what level you're at, high school, Pop Warner, whatever. That many attempts without turning it over. And then on top of that, he rushes for like 1,200 yards. So he's just, I think, one of the better packages that we've seen. And then the part that you and a lot of the media members will start to get to see over the next year is that he's a great person. He's a kind guy. He's also a dynamic leader. He's kind of a dog when you get him on the field. So I think he's not this one unique thing. He's just one of the best packages we've seen.
We had Kirk Herbstreit on a couple of weeks ago, and I said, who would you take, Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence? And he said, now I'm talking about going into the NFL, and he said, I'd lean towards Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence. What do you make of that?
I think it's similar. The questions around Justin are the similar ones that you're going to see around Trey Lance, and that we just saw it for 1 year. You really only did it for 1 year, and unfortunately, Ohio State's not playing. And so I think there's more sample size with Trevor, but at the same time, just because somebody played 1 year doesn't mean that they're not going to follow that up with 15 amazing ones. So I can see why people would go with Justin Fields, but I have similar questions with both those guys, and I have similar things that I get really excited about with both those guys.
What's the biggest question, though, that you have? Is it the same question?
Yeah, I think with both those guys, look, playing in a dominant college football team, when the majority of the time you step on the field, you're favored to win. Okay, and Tua is a perfect example last year. Pretty much every time Tua went on the field at Alabama, they're supposed to win, right? They're literally favored, okay? So when you play the majority of your games that way, we just don't know definitively how you're going to play when you are no longer favored and you don't have the best team on the field. So you talk about Sam Darnold, there's a perfect example. Joe Burrow, when he steps on the field, the Bengals are not going to be favored for 16 weeks this year. And so that's the biggest question mark is, does it translate? Can they be the catalyst type player where they literally make the whole team better as opposed to just execute things well? When you're playing at a Clemson, at Ohio State, at Alabama, you can just play well and be in the running for the Heisman.
And you worked out with Joe Burrow, and I don't know what that's like when all of a sudden you're going to usually a team that's been losing. So he's going to the Bengals. Sam Darnold went to the Jets. Josh Allen went to the Buffalo Bills. They're not winning, and these guys are coming from programs for the most part where they were winning. And what do you teach them or tell them about that mental or whatever it might be, that hurdle that says you're not going to win as often as you think, and this is the role that you have with your team?
Yeah, I think the most important trait, there's really two. Then this is where my eye goes when I'm evaluating guys and then when I'm advising guys as they make that transition. It really comes down to confidence and maturity. And it's funny because we make a huge deal out of arm talent and stats and 40-yard dash time. And it comes down to those two things, confidence and maturity. Confidence, it's it really has to be, there's two types of confidence. There's self-generated confidence where it's independent of the environment. I mean, I don't care what anybody says about me, good or bad. This is what I believe about myself. And then there's the reactionary confidence, which a lot of young players have, where if everybody says that you're awesome, they believe it. If everybody says you're a bum, you start to wonder if they're right. On the maturity side of things, it's not about tucking your shirt in and saying yes, sir, and being on time. What it is being in a new situation for the first time and acting as if you've been in that situation multiple times. And so I look at Joe Burrow last year. He went to Ohio State and all that, but that run, when they're 7-0 at LSU and 8-0 and 11-0 and 12-0, and it starts to get really big, right? And then the Heisman and all the media and all the stuff that comes with that, he handled all of that as if it was his third time doing it. And so when you go to the league and there's all this newness, the franchise, you're now a professional, there's all the responsibility, all the newness of the NFL. When the mature guys handle it as if it's their third or fourth year. We're seeing that with Patrick. We're seeing that with Deshaun. We're seeing that with Josh. We're seeing it with a lot of these guys. And so that's what I really try and look for in these college guys when we're projecting.
What is it about that second-year jump that we've seen, and it's expected of Kyler Murray this year? You saw that with Lamar Jackson last year. You saw that with Patrick Mahomes as well. What is it that some quarterbacks see and other ones don't?
Well, I use that word newness because as a fan, you think about the newness is, they see different coverages now. People play different defenses, and they've got new teammates. But everything's new. They're no longer a student athlete. These guys' lives change so much off the field that it's overwhelming for guys. And I'm uniquely positioned to have this opinion because for some of these guys, I'm the ones advising them. And there's something about that second year, once you've got a lot of that newness out of the way, where it can now get just back to football, just back to X's and O's and executing and getting on time with that guy and understanding that coverage. You get all of the new stuff out of the way, and it gets to be just football like it was in college.
But what happened to Baker Mayfield, who was good year one, regressed year two, and what do you expect in year three?
So year two, there's just no continuity. The move to bring it to promote Freddie Kitchens based off of some relationship that Baker and him had. And, one of the guys that was actually the mastermind and really helpful in Baker's rookie year, his name is Ken Zampese. He was a quarterback coach. He wasn't a part of that. He was out. So now you've got Freddie Kitchens and Drew Stanton and some people who know a lot of football and can be really helpful and great coaches. But that continuity and that the responsibility that they put on Baker, I think that was poorly timed or coupled with a ton of expectations. We all looked at that roster, OBJ, and we expected these things up here, but they didn't have the foundation. I actually do think they have it this year, and I think Baker has the best year that he's had in the NFL coming up. I think he actually has a monster year.
He's Jordan Palmer, quarterback coach, draft training expert. If you were running the Dolphins, if you're Coach Flores, you starting who week one?
I'd start Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
I played with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Tua is going to be a great pro. I just don't see the value in forcing Tua on the field. And I don't know. I am not in these practices. I don't know if he's ready right now. But either way, I'm a big proponent of all these guys sitting if they can. But more importantly, if they can sit behind a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh McCown or Alex Smith, if they can sit behind a guy like that, I think all of them should sit because there's too much value in watching not just Ryan play, but Ryan work, Ryan deal with adversity. And you also get a chance, if you're Flores, to let your team settle in through a few weeks, right? And you're going to find out how good or bad you are. We'll do that with Ryan so you can put Tua in at whatever you think is the perfect time.
Jordan just launched the QB Summit digital platform via qbsummit.com. So this is helping youth quarterbacks, high school quarterbacks. What's the one thing you teach that you want them to take away from this experience?
Well, it's an online platform. The hardest thing right now in the country is, and this is launched internationally as well, is access to quality quarterback coaching. We're seeing the position, all different kinds of guys from all different parts of the country. There's a kid in Germany committed to TCU, so literally all parts of the world.
Wow.
These quarterbacks are developing, and it's getting harder and harder to separate yourself. And so for me, I launched this platforms for the guys that they have a coach. They go to camps as young as 10 years old, and I work with 10-year vets, but these kids, they can actually take this and add this to their game. So I've got a content for everything in there, but the focus is trying to get them to be as confident as possible. I mentioned it. It's the most important trait in a quarterback. I believe that confidence is a muscle. You can train it. Some of the things I do with NFL guys is the same stuff I get a chance to do with young guys. So this online platform is great for kids, coaches, and also parents too.
And it feels like that's Russell Wilson's strongest trait is he's mentally that he feels like he's stronger than you. He expects to win. He expects to be great. And that's not always easy to do at that position.
Lost you for a second there. You were talking about Russell Wilson?
Yeah, just how mentally strong he is. He thinks he's better than you. He thinks he's going to find a way to win. Can you teach that?
100%. And actually, the person who does, his name's Trevor Moad, and that's who I've worked with for over a decade. He's a performance psychologist, got an amazing book out right now that Russell wrote the foreword on it. It's called It Takes What It Takes. And so Russell's always believed this about himself. He's always said, if I'm good enough, then I'm tall enough. That was the knock, right? He's not tall enough. When he got drafted, when he was at Wisconsin, when they said, hey, we've got Mike Glennon, your services are no longer warranted here at North Carolina State. He wasn't tall enough. Well, he's always believed that if I'm good enough, I'm tall enough. And that's honestly one of the things I tell my rookies. Hey, if you're good enough, you're old enough. These kids that are starting as true freshmen in college, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So whatever that insecurity is, you can absolutely solve for that. And that confidence, it's a muscle. If you develop it, it'll grow.
Do you think your brother is going to get his Heisman Trophy back from my man cave?
Did it actually go to your man cave? That was on the list of questions I have for you.
Yes. Yes. It's on my bar. It's covered with dust. He had it in his garage.
Oh, I know that. I mean, the last thing he's going to do is, tell people how awesome he was in college and put pressure on his kids. You know what I mean? It's the last thing he's going to do. So that's getting more use there than it would. Anyway.
That's what he said. He goes, it was just in my garage. And he goes, I'll ship it to you. I got its own suitcase. And so I think he said he was loaning it to me. I think. But I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure.
You just keep buttering up. And he's got something to promote. Let him promote it. And then I think he'll forget about it, honestly.
I can't say this strongly enough. If you have a son that is interested in playing the position or is playing the position and you want to hear from somebody who knows what he's talking about and works with Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, most recently Joe Burrow, Jordan Palmer is the guy. It's QBsummit.com, a digital platform. Great to touch base with you again, Jordan. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dan. Thanks, guys.